सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। रामो राजमणिः सदा विजयते रामं रमेशं भजे रामेणाभिहता निशाचरचमु रामाय तस्मै नमः। रामान्नास्ति परायणं परतरं रामस्य दासोऽस्म्यहम्। रामे चित्तलयः सदा भवतु मे भो राम मामुद्धर समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयम्। नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ॐ श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरवे नमः। 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 प्रकृतिं पुरुषं चैव क्षेत्रं क्षेत्रज्ञमेव च एतद् वेदितुमिच्छामि ज्ञानं ज्ञेयं च केशव। 3 pairs or 6 different things Arjuna has asked. Bhagavan has not yet elaborated on the topic Prakriti and Purusha. In fact, he started with elaboration of Kshetra. First definition of Kshetra Bhagavan gave is Idam Shariram Kaunteya Kshetramiti Abhidhiyate. This body is called as Kshetra. Kshetra literally means a field. That place where karmas are sown and karma phalas are reaped. That is called as Kshetra. Therefore, this body is called as Kshetra. Then Bhagavan said, Yad Vikari Yataschayata. Third verse, if you see, Tat Kshetram Yachayadrukcha Yad Vikari Yataschayata. Second definition of Kshetra is that which modifies, that is called as Kshetra. Tat Kshetram Yachayadrukcha Yad Vikari Yataschayata. Whatever is constantly undergoing modification, that is called as Kshetra. Then he went further to detail out 24 aspects of Kshetra. That was verse number 5. Mahabhutani ahankarah buddhiravyaktameva cha indriyani dashekam cha panchachendriya gocharaha. Total 24 aspects put together is called as Kshetra. Then he also elaborated how does this Kshetra operate in transactional life. What are the effects of Kshetra in Vyavahara? That is the next verse. Ichha dvesha sukham dukkham sanghatas chetana trutihi etat kshetram samasena savikaram udahrutam. So Kshetra is pointed out as body. Kshetra is that which modifies. 24 aspects put together is Kshetra. And all these aspects in Vyavahara, desire, hatred, joy, sorrow, all of it is expression of Kshetra in Vyavahara. Then Bhagavan took up the topic of jnanam. So in second verse, Bhagavan had said, Kshetra kshetrajnayo jnanam yatta jnanam matam mama. What is knowledge? Knowledge is clarity between nature of kshetra and nature of kshetrajna. Having this clear viveka between self and not self, that alone is called as knowledge. But then he said, if I want to know the nature of self, if I want to know nature of kshetrajna, then I need certain values in my life. So elaborated 20 values and called those 20 values as knowledge. Because they are means of knowledge, they can also be called as knowledge. Meaning without that, knowledge of self is not possible. Even if knowledge takes place somehow, I will not benefit from that knowledge. Minus values. So kshetra is elaborated, jnanam is elaborated. What are remaining now? Kshetrajna and neyam. Bhagavan says both are the same. What is neyam? What should be known? What should be known? Kshetrajna. Etadyo vetitam prahuhu kshetrajna iti tadvidah. First definition of kshetrajna is the one who is knower of kshetra. That is kshetrajna. And Bhagavan said, kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi. Know that kshetrajna to be none other than me alone. So immediate pointer of kshetrajna or vachartha of kshetrajna. Vachartha means direct meaning of kshetrajna is ego. But the implied meaning, essential meaning of kshetrajna is pure consciousness. Ishvara, without conditioning. So Bhagavan said, kshetrajnam chapi mam vidhi. Now, Bhagavan is going to elaborate nature of this kshetrajna. So 12th verse onwards, just like he described kshetra briefly and elaborated upon it, now he has given some indicators of kshetrajna, neyam, and he is elaborating upon them. Let us chant the 12th verse. Neyam yattat pravakshami yajñātvāmrutamashnuते anādimat param brahma na sattannāsaduchyate Neyam yattat pravakshami yajñātvāmrutamashnute anādimat param brahma na sattannāsaduchyate. This verse we had seen in the last session. But notice what Bhagavan is telling. Neyam yattat pravakshami. I am going to tell elaborately, precisely what is neyam. Why am I telling this? Yajñātva amrutam ashnute, having known which one attains immortality. So attainment here is to discover our essential nature as immortal. Mortal doesn't become immortal. Immortal understands that I was ever immortal. I was thinking myself to be mortal, identifying with kshetra. Identifying with conditioning, I came to think about myself to be a mortal. Anadimat param brahma. Now the elaboration or indicator of kshetrajna, indicator of consciousness. Anadimat, that which is beginningless, doesn't have a beginning. Matu pratyaya is used for completing the verse. We had seen that. Param Brahma, that which is supreme and infinite. Nasat tat na asat uchyate. It cannot be called as sat, neither can it be called as asat. What does it mean? It doesn't become an object of mind and sense organ. Just like we say, chair exists, mic exists, building exists, we cannot say existence exists. It is not another object in this creation which exists. Now, if you cannot say it exists, can we say it is non-existent? We say no, na asat uchyate. You cannot call it as non-existence also. This is where we had seen the example of light or sun. Sun is not illuminator. Sun is not prakashaka. Nor do we need to illumine sun. Nor can we illumine sun. So it is not prakashya. It is not prakashaka. It is not prakashya. How does our mind think? Okay, if it is not prakashaka, it is not prakashya, then it is darkness. That which is not illuminator and that which is not illumined. Mind will put it in the category of darkness. What do we say? Sun is not prakashaka, it is not prakashya, neither is it andhakara. Sun is prakasha swarupa, it is of the nature of light. Similarly, consciousness, it is neither sat nor asat, it is sat swarupa. It is that existence from which everything else borrows existence. So when you say na sat, that sat doesn't refer to pure consciousness as Satchidananda Sat. There the word sat is existing as an object. Because in one place it is said Brahman is Sat Chit Ananda. And over here it is said na sat. So we should appreciate the meaning of sat. In this particular verse, sat means an object. So na sat means it doesn't exist like an object. Now there is one technical point that Shankaracharya mentions in the commentary. Nasattan nasaduchyate also implies it cannot be pointed out as an object using words. Asti buddhi vishaya. There are several things in this universe, and you can point them out using words as an object. And look at our rishis. They say there are only 4 ways by which you can point out an object using words. The first method is you can point out a quality of something. For example, there are several roses. The moment you say red, then you are pointing out to a specific object. The moment you say blue. So that word is called as guna. The word red is called guna. So using guna, we can indicate an object. Second way of indicating is through an action. You say, who is Shyam? Shyam is the one who is driving the car. Who is Devadatta? You can say Devadatta is the one who is cooking. Now, cooking and Devadatta have no relation. But you can use that action to indicate Devadatta. You can use driving to indicate Shyam. So second way of indicating is through an action. First way was through guna, through some attribute. Third way of indicating is through genus. One word that indicates a group of things. For example, you say milk is given by the cow. So the word cow represents a genus. Within that, you will have several variety. But the moment you say cow, you know what you're talking about. That is called as jati. Genus means jati. The criteria for jati is there should be minimum two things. You cannot call one entity as jati. There should be at least two things. Okay, so we can indicate an object through guna, through kriya, through jati. And third one is through sambandha. Sambandha means relation. The person who lives in a white house, or the person who has a gray car. So gray car and the person have relation. So you're able to indicate the person using that object. The one who has yellow shoes, yellow clothes, yellow hat, you're indicating brahmachari using those indicators. That is called as sambandha. Last one is also there, fifth one, but it is not traditionally counted. It is called as rudi. Rudi means popular meaning. For example, if you hear the word Kalidasa, now we all know which Kalidasa we are referring to. Even if I have a neighbor whose name is Kalidasa, I will not ask which Kalidasa wrote Shakuntala. That is called as Rudiyartha. So total 4 ways: Guna, Kriya, Jati, Sambandha. 4 ways of speech to indicate an object. If you find a 5th way, think about it. Because whenever our rishis classify, very difficult to add another category. Just imagine how many objects are there in this world, and if words have to indicate them, how many permutations and combinations are possible. But our rishi said there are only 4 ways. Either you point out attribute, or you point out action, or you point out genus, or relation. Guna, kriya, jati, sambandha. Now, nasattan nasaduchyate means consciousness cannot be indicated as an object by using words. Why is that? Because first way by which words can indicate an object is through guna. And consciousness is that in its essential form, it doesn't have any guna. So which attribute are we going to use to indicate consciousness, which has no attributes? So guna cannot be used. Second option was using some action, like the one who drives a car, one who cooks. So consciousness is nishkriya. It doesn't do any action. So I cannot use any action also to indicate consciousness. Third one was genus. What is the criteria for defining a genus? At least 2 things. So other than consciousness, there is nothing else to have a group of consciousness. So we cannot use genus also. And last one is sambandha. Consciousness is asanga, doesn't have any relation with anything, no sambandha. Therefore, shabda cannot be used to indicate Chaitanya as an object. It's a very nice point to think about, because just imagine, how will Upanishads teach us if they have to talk about that truth and you cannot use words? That's why Kenopanishad Rishi said, Na tatra chakshur gacchati, nava gacchati, no manaha. It is that where eyes don't go, none of the sense organs go. And last he said, how does it get indicated? Anyateva tat viditat, atho aviditat adhi. It is pointed out through negation, different from known and beyond unknown. Na vidmaha na vijanimaha. We don't know any other way of teaching. Yathaitad anushishyat. Iti shushruma purvesham yenastat vichachakshire. This is how we were taught, and this is the only way to indicate. Now the beauty is, if you have to indicate consciousness, and you cannot use any of these conditionings, because consciousness essentially doesn't have attributes. The only way to do it is by knowingly superimposing conditionings. This is a very important topic in Advaita Vedanta. How is the truth indicated? Consciousness by itself is unconditioned. But you can superimpose unreal conditionings. One good news is consciousness is substratum of all conditionings. Although it is without any conditioning, it is a substratum. So if we hold on to the conditioning and first recognize conditioned consciousness. Step number 1, add conditionings. Step number 2, recognize conditioned consciousness. Third step, you can drop the conditioning and keep attention on consciousness. Directly shifting attention to consciousness, there is a risk of making consciousness an object. But if you hold on to conditioned consciousness and drop conditioning, what we'll be left with is pure consciousness. So step number 1 and 2, adding conditioning and recognizing conditioned consciousness, is called as Adhyaropa. Both are important. Adding conditioning and recognizing conditioned consciousness. Step number 2 of removing the conditioning is called apavada. This concept is important because the remaining verses are going to use this method. Adhyaropa, apavada. Now we'll take some examples. Several examples so that we can hold on to this concept very firmly. What is Adhyaropa apavada? It is a method to reveal nature of consciousness. That consciousness which doesn't have any conditionings, conditionings are knowingly superimposed so that we can shift attention to conditioned consciousness. And because those conditionings were unreal, they can be removed later. So take the example of Devadatta cooking. Step number 1, take cooking conditioning. Step number 2, add it on Devadatta. The one who is cooking is Devadatta. But when Devadatta stops cooking, he still exists. So if you are looking for Devadatta and not finding him, first you are able to shift attention to him through cooking, because cooking is easily noticed. But once you shift attention to that Devadatta who is cooking, we can drop the conditioning of cooking. Another example, you must have seen this T-Mobile shop. Outside, they have a dancing man, that balloon which looks to be dancing. Or if you go to the airport, when the plane lands, you find a windsock. What is that windsock doing? It is showing direction of wind. Actually, it is showing presence of wind first. If I have to shift attention to air, it is difficult. So what do? I take conditioning of windsock, add it on air. Now, how do I define air? Air is that which is making the windsock move. But if I have to understand nature of air, is windsock needed? Not needed. Once I shift attention to air, I can let go of the windsock. So adding that windsock and seeing air through that windsock is Adhyaropa. Understanding the nature of air minus windsock is apavada. Next time when you see that balloon man, remember Adhyaropa apavada. What is there is only air. But I am able to appreciate air because of this balloon. Without that balloon, I don't even know whether air exists or not. But if I always need the balloon to understand air, that is not complete understanding. Therefore, both steps are important, Adhyaropa and apavada. Now look at some traditional examples. One traditional example is, out of all the 5 elements, the one which is most difficult to notice is space. But if I say, pay attention to pot space, it becomes easier. What has happened there? We have put the conditioning of pot. And through pot, we are able to recognize space. Then you say, this pot space is infinite. Really speaking, what is the relationship between space and pot? No relation. But it is powerful enough to shift my attention there. So adding that space and pointing out to pot space is which step? Adhyaropa. Looking at space from the standpoint of pot is Adhyaropa. Understanding that this space is infinite, it has nothing to do with pot, is apavada. Now if I say, next example, if I say pay attention to light, you'll wonder, where is light? What is light? But if I say pay attention to this hand, now pay attention to that which is illumining this hand. Now having shifted attention to that light, remove this hand. So what is the purpose of this hand? To help me appreciate light. Through reflection, I'm able to appreciate what is illumining. Light is illumining the hand. Light is illumining the hand. Which step is this? Adhyaropa. What is the relationship between light and hand? No relation. But I can use the hand to shift attention to light. But if I always define light as that which illumines my hand, that is not complete understanding. Light is light. It is of the nature of illumination. Okay, This is the main concept here. Adhyaropa apavadabhyam nishprapancham prapanchate. That consciousness which is devoid of prapancha is being made to understand with the help of this unique method called as Adhyaropa apavada. So whenever we see contradicting statements, very quickly we should understand. If they're adding conditionings, it is Adhyaropa. If they're removing conditionings, it is apavada. The main point is to shift attention to consciousness. Okay, now the precise example for Adhyaropa apavada is snake and rope. If I have to shift attention to the rope, first I have to bring attention to this fact that this snake which I am seeing, the substratum of that illusory snake is the rope. Nothing else. Once I have understood the rope, whatever was seen as snake can be removed. See, in other examples, the conditioning and the substratum both were same degrees of reality. You notice the difference between hand and light? Light is Vyavaharik Satta, hand is Vyavaharik Satta. The conditioning doesn't depend or is not directly connected with the substratum. But in case of rope and illusory snake, that conditioning of illusory snake depends and is born from that same substratum. But what is it doing? It comes to hide the substratum. But I can use it to shift attention to the substratum. So what is the snake over here? Chetra. What is the substratum? Ch13. Just like snake depends upon rope, Kshetra depends upon Kshetrajna. Just like I can use snake to shift attention to rope, I can use Kshetra to shift attention to Kshetrajna. So Kshetrajna is pointed out through Kshetra. Sometimes people get this question, why is this world there in the first place? One answer to this is so that we can shift attention to Paramatma. Without conditioning, to shift attention to conditioned consciousness is impossible. So Jagat is there, mind is there. Mind is also Kshetra. Ego is there, which is also Kshetra. It is there so that we can shift attention to Kshetrajna. Now you see, 13th verse. Same concept. Sarvatah panipadam tate sarvatokshishirormukham sarvatokshishiromukam sarvatashrutimaloke sarvamavritya tishtati sarvatah panipadam tate sarvatokshishiromukam sarvatashrutimaloke sarvamavritya tishtati. After looking at the English meaning, you have to tell me which step this is. Sarvatah panipadam. All hands, pani means hands, padam is legs. Sarvatah panipadam. That which has hands and legs everywhere. Meaning what? Whatever hands and legs are there are hands and legs of that Chaitanya alone. Now remember, hands and legs not only of human beings, even of animals, birds, insects, whatever hands and legs are there are of that Chaitanya. Sarvatah Akshi Shiro Mukham. Akshi means eyes, Shiraha means head, Mukham means face. That which has eyes, head, face everywhere. Meaning, whatever eyes, whatever face, whichever heads are there, all of them belong to that Chaitanya. This is how we should understand. Don't think Chaitanya to be one person and having these features. Hands and legs everywhere, several faces. Whatever hands and legs are there, they belong to Chaitanya. Same with eyes, head, and face. Sarvatah Shrutimat Loke. Whatever ears are there, they also belong to Chaitanya. Sarvam avritya tishtati. Pervading all, it is very well sitting. Very well placed, pervading all of them. Which step is this? Adhyaropa. Now there is specific reason why these conditionings are used. Pani Padam refers to karmendriyas. Hands and legs refers to karmendriya. So wherever there is kriya shakti, wherever there is power of action, that is possible because of Chaitanya. Then Akshi Shiro Mukham, Jnanendriya and mind. Wherever there is knowledge possible, that is because of Chaitanya. Sarvatah Shrutimat Loke. Ears are also Jnanendriya. So wherever action is possible, wherever knowledge is possible, and thinking is possible, it is possible only because of consciousness. Now see, just like the windsock was easy to notice, these conditionings are easy to notice. I know what is Kriya Shakti, power of action, hands and legs, whatever they're doing. I know what is Jnana Shakti also. Perception of this world is happening. But the main thing to notice here is both these Shaktis depend upon consciousness. Jnana Shakti, Kriya Shakti, this is a signature of life. Ichha Shakti is also there, but you can just take these two for now. Power of knowledge and power of action. How do we say, or why do we say a thing is living? Because it expresses these two things. It can know and it can act. What this shloka is telling us is, by looking at expression of life, pay attention to the enlivener. Expression of life is easy to notice, but using that, shift attention to the enlivener. It is just like, here it doesn't happen much. No, here also it happens sometimes. When the power goes off, what is the first thought we get? See whether it has gone in the neighbor's home also. Whether it has gone off in the neighbor's home. If it has gone off everywhere, we are fine. Only if my house doesn't have power, then it's something to be worried about. But how do you know whether power is there in neighbor's house? Look at whether the tube light is on or not. So the presence of light is an indicator of electricity. This is precisely what this verse is telling us. presence of Kriya Shakti, presence of Jnana Shakti, observing Kriya Shakti, observing Jnana Shakti is an indicator of Chaitanya. So Chaitanya is like electricity. This is an example, huh? There are differences between Chaitanya and electricity. The biggest difference is electricity gets spent. When the light source or some heat or some fan is drawing power from that electricity, the electricity reduces. But when consciousness illumines eyes, ears, sense organs, and mind, nothing happens to consciousness. Fortunately, we don't get illumination bill. For 55 years, consciousness illumining all these conditionings. See, what happens is when you give example, sometimes you misunderstand it and take it literally. You would have heard people quoting, just like energy never gets created, energy never gets destroyed. Consciousness never created, consciousness is never destroyed. Example is okay, but if you say consciousness is energy, then there is a problem. Main thing is consciousness and conditioning, they are different degrees of reality. So energy and effects of energy will be same degree of reality. And at least some modification will come, right? It gets transformed from one state to another, which is not the case with consciousness. So we should use examples, but we should also know Samyamsha and Vaishamya. In what part of the example it correlates, and in what part of the example it is different. Okay, so this was the example given. And Sarvam Avritya Tishtati. It is seated, pervading all. Means not only sentient things which are expressing life, but also insentient things. That is consciousness. Now, next verse is precise indicator of Adhyaropa apavada. See if you can catch it. Huh? Tell me which part is Adhyaropa, which part is apavada. Sarvendriya gunabhasam Sarvendriya vivarjitam Asaktam sarvabhruchaiva Nirgunam gunabhoktru cha Sarvendriya gunabhasam Sarvendriya vivarjitam Asaktam sarvabhruchaiva Nirgunam gunabhoktru cha. Sarva Indriya. Sarva Indriya means all sense organs. Guna means their functions. And Abhasam means that which reveals itself. Abhasam here doesn't mean illusion. Huh? Sarvendriya Gunabhasam means Abhasam, Shankaracharya translates it as avabhasate. Avabhasate means it makes itself known through the functioning of different sense organs. Sarva Indriya Gunabhasam. Next quarter, Sarva Indriya Vivarjitam. That which is devoid of all sense organs. So what is Sarvendriya Gunabhasam? Adhyaropa. So Indriyas are added upon consciousness. Consciousness is pointed out as enlivener of Indriyas. And what is Sarvendriya Vivarjitam? Apavada. Consciousness is pointed out without any conditionings. If you have to point out consciousness without conditioning, why did you add conditioning in the first place? It is needed to shift attention. Before I understand unconditioned consciousness, I should first be very thorough and comfortable with conditioned consciousness. See, the essence of this verse is this. If I say I am seeing, that is ignorance. If I say my ability to see is because of Paramatma, that is Adhyaropa. If I only say I am seeing, there is nothing great. All of us know we are seeing. But if we are able to say my ability to see comes from Paramatma, that is Adhyaropa. And if I say Paramatma alone is real, mind, sense organs, and whatever I am seeing is conditioning, which is unreal. So that is knowledge. Then again, when I say, or when I see this world, if I can remember consciousness, that is not only jnanam, that is vijnanam. Only seeing, understanding that seeing is because of Paramatma, only Paramatma. Last step, while seeing the world, remembering Paramatma. Ajnanam, partial jnanam. Adhyaropa, jnanam, vijnanam. 4 steps. So sarvendriya gunabhasam, that which makes itself known through different conditionings, that which is devoid of conditioning, sarvendriya vivarjitam, asaktam sarvabhrutchaiva. Asaktam means that which doesn't have any sambandha, no relations. Asanga, unattached. But at the same time, sarvabhrut, it nourishes all. You say, how can you nourish something by being unattached? They say, just like the rope nourishes the snake. Substratum nourishes superimposed without any kind of relation. So consciousness nourishes individual conditioning and total conditioning without any sambandha, without any relation with conditioning. Asaktam sarvabhrutchaiva nirgunam gunabhokturcha. Essentially, it is devoid of all gunas, nirgunam. But at the same time, it enjoys all guna, guna bhoktru. So enjoying all gunas is Adhyaropa. You cannot find any other enjoyer. Consciousness alone will be the enjoyer. But only catch is it enjoys or it appears to enjoy with conditioning. Through the lens of ahankara, through the conditioning of ego, mind and body and sense organ, it as though appears to enjoy. But essentially, it is devoid of all these conditionings. Both steps are important. That's why Mundaka Mantra said, Tasmin Drishte Paravare. I should know Nirguna Brahma also, and I should know Saguna Brahma also. Means, how does that Brahman express? Through conditioning. Here, one point to note is, if we shift attention, or if we are paying attention only to conditioning, then also we are missing the point. What is important here? Conditioned consciousness. That's why the first statement, I am seeing, nothing great about it. because my attention is only on sense organ, at the most mind. What is expected is I should appreciate for myself my ability to see, ability to hear. Everything is possible only because of Chaitanya. Now, there are several examples given of how one thing appears different with conditioning. The one which is there in Ramcharitmanas, it's also there in Upanishad. If a boat is moving, stationary trees appear to be moving. For the person sitting in the boat, for him, those trees appear to be moving. So you can say two statements. Trees are moving and trees are stationary. And it is not one or the other is right. What is the reality? Both are right. So how will you explain trees are moving? From the conditioning of boat, trees appear to be moving. Are they really moving? No, as though. But you cannot deny it. It's your experience that trees are moving. And from its own standpoint, trees are stationary. What does that tree represent? Consciousness. What is the boat? Mind. You can take mind for now, just the mind. When mind moves, consciousness as though appears to be moving. Or put it other way, movement of mind is possible only because of consciousness. Movement of mind is possible only because of consciousness. But essentially, consciousness is unmoving. So, movement is happening in conditioning, made possible by substratum. But the movement is not part of substratum. Goswamiji gives another example. When children swirl around and stop, they say buildings are moving. And if somebody tells them, no, 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 you are moving, they say you are mithyavadi. You are speaking untruth. He said that is how Jiva says. Movement is happening in conditioning, but erroneously it is superimposed on Chaitanya. Erroneously, if you do it, it is called Adhyasa. Knowingly, if you do it, it is called Adhyaropa. So Adhyaropa is knowing superimposition so that we can shift attention to the truth. There is a nice story of conditioning and without conditioning. I've shared this before in Ishavasya Upanishad. All the gopis, they are ready to serve Bhagwan Krishna dinner. And Bhagwan tells them, today is a very auspicious day. Durvasa Muni has come on the other side of Yamunaji. So all of you have to go and serve him first. Then you come and serve me. It was raining, drizzling at that time. Yamunaji was not that ferocious. You could cross the river. So gopis cross the river, go on the opposite side. Durvasa Rishi was there. And they serve him nicely. Durvasa Rishi must have fasted that day. He was very hungry. Finished everything that they had brought. Gopis, whatever they had brought, everything he finished. But by the time they finished serving dinner to him, dinner bhiksha, Mangalam, everything was chanted. It was pitch dark and pouring heavily. Yamunaji, with lot of flooding happening, no way they can cross back. They go back to Durvasa Rishi, all the gopis, and they say, you find some solution for us. And Durvasa Rishi says, go to Yamunaji, chant Yamunashtakam. And after you chant, you say, if Durvasa Rishi has been fasting the whole day, please give us way. If Durvasa Rishi has fasted until now, not eaten anything through the entire day, up till now, then please give us the way. Gopi say, do you want us to be on this side of the bank? Because we only served you, we only gave you everything. But they say, just do what I am telling you. And they go, they chant Yamunashtakam, do this prayer. And to their surprise, Yamunaji recedes and gives them way to go back to Gokul, go back to Vrindavan. They come back to Bhagavan Krishna totally confused. They say, Bhagavan, what happened here? We only served Durvasa Rishi. And he said, if I have not eaten the whole day, Yamunaji will give you way. And she gave us way. Bhagavan explained them Adhyaropa, apavada. When Durvasa Rishi said, I ate dinner, Bhiksha, one statement can be with the conditioning of ego, sense organs, and the action of eating. But in Durvasa Rishi's eye, when he says Durvasa Rishi, his understanding is pure consciousness, which is nirgunam without any conditionings. With conditioning, it becomes guna bhoktru. So with conditionings, he had whatever you offered. But in his own understanding, in his conviction, his I doesn't refer to conditioning. So pure consciousness never accepted anything. Therefore, that statement is also right. The thing to note here is the concept of Adhyaropa and apavada. Okay, very beautiful verses these are, helpful in meditation. And we should never have one-sided understanding. The same creation which can put us in bondage can also, or is the only way by which we can shift attention to the truth. Minus conditioning, there is no conditioned consciousness. Without going through conditioned consciousness, there is no pure consciousness. Do you remember we discussed something in Viveka Chudamani class? The word anusandhanam. Before doing lakshartha anusandhanam, we have to do vachyartha anusandhanam first. So tat tvam asi, if you have to understand, first I have to understand direct meaning of tattvam asi. What is tat referring to? Consciousness plus total conditioning. Tvam is referring to consciousness plus individual conditioning. So whenever I think of body, I should think of that consciousness which is conditioned by the body. If I only think of body, if I only think of mind, then I am yet to do anusandhanam of vachyartha. If I see tree as tree, mountain as mountain, that means I am yet to do anusandhanam of tatpada vachyartha. So first step is tree plus consciousness. Then comes the later step, which is lakshartha anusandhanam. When we equate both of them, conditionings are removed. The essential nature, unconditioned consciousness, that will be understood. So even in Upanishad, when they point out consciousness through the heart, through mind, hiranmaye pare koshe, it's a very systematic step of pointing out. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namah.